Hello and welcome back. As you can see here, we're going to do a little bit something different today. We don't do a whole lot, and most people don't do a whole lot with ramen noodles. Okay, now I know there are going to be some college kids watching this, and you're probably a little bit tight on money, and you're probably going to eat a lot of ramen noodles over the years in college. And to be honest with you, there was a time that I was really strapped for money during a couple of years of my life, and I ended up figuring out a lot of different things to do with ramen noodles. Not because I really liked ramen noodles, but because that's what I had to do to survive. And it can really get you through some tough times. So anyway, ramen noodles are very versatile. The only thing you have to really watch out for is the high sodium content. So my suggestion would be, when you cook any kind of ramen dish, you want some watermelon later that day, or you want some banana to offset the high sodium, because whether you know it or not, your electrolytes can get out of balance and cause you some problems. Anytime your sodium goes real high, your potassium goes down. And watermelon and bananas are really high in potassium. So anyway, that will help. And this is a very cheap meal, and you can eat this at lunch or dinner or just any time that you want it. And it's very filling if you add some things to it to make it more than just the ramen noodle soup. Okay, now I'm going to start by telling you this. You see I have chicken ramen here. Now I have beef meat back here. The beef is going to contrast with the chicken flavor, and you want to do that to make a contrast in your food so you have multiple layers of flavor in there, you know. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start out. We've got a couple of vegetables here. We got a carrot. We're going to use about a half a carrot, and get rid of the tip. And we're going to cut that up into small pieces because you don't want them to cook very long. Okay, you want this to be really thin to where that it'll cook really quickly, and you don't have to waste a lot of time, because the noodles, as you know, only take 2 or 3 minutes to cook. So you don't want these to cook a very long time. Now I like a little carrot in mine. I like about a half an onion. I really like a lot of onion in my ramen. So that helps. And the more you can bulk up your ramen noodles, the more filling and more healthy of a meal it's going to be. So you want to cut your onion there. And you can chop this up to make it in smaller pieces. You're just going to put all of that aside. Now, something I like to do, as you've probably noticed by the theme of some of my videos, I like a little bit of spice in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and add a little bit of pepper to this. Not much. I don't want it really spicy, but enough to give it a little zing when you eat it. So that, you know, you just don't... If you eat a lot of ramen, you're going to learn not to like it pretty quickly. So the more you can mix it up, the better off you are. And then I take a big hunk of garlic here, smash that and peel it real quick. And these with the red skins on them don't peel as easily as the ones with the regular white skin. So anyway, smash that up, a little bit of a chop on it. Alright, now all of this is going to cook together before you actually add the noodles, so that these will be cooked before you actually add the noodles, because they only take a couple of minutes to cook. But we're also going to cut up our meat here into little slices, thin slices across the grain. If you see the grain, this is just a breakfast steak, and these are very cheap at the grocery store. It's breakfast steak, and you cut it across the grain so that it becomes more tender and it's not tough. Breakfast steak is kind of a tough steak. It's not like a ribeye or a T-bone or anything. So you cut that across the grain. And the Chinese do a lot of cooking and they cut across the grain so that it's very tender. And normally the Chinese take really tough cuts of meat and you cut it across the grain, and if you cut it at an angle like on the bias, it becomes really tender. Okay, and then you can cut it crossways into bite-sized pieces after that. Because you don't want big old long strings of meat hanging out of your ramen noodles. The noodles are already going to be stringy enough, right? So anyway, there you go. So we'll go over here and we will take and we will add we have a pot here, okay, kind of a medium-sized pot, because I'm going to make 2 packs of ramen. So I'm going to add a little bit of vegetable oil to that, and it's on a medium-high heat. I'm going to add a little bit of cooking oil to that, and then we're going to throw in the vegetables we have. Maybe a little too high, but take that, stir it around a little bit. You don't want it to burn, and certainly don't want your garlic to burn, but you want it to kind of cook through a little bit. Just for a couple of minutes. I'd add a little more. Alright, so that after that cooks a couple minutes there, then what you want to do is you want to throw in your meat. And that cooked onion in there will also help to tenderize your meat just a little bit. Okay, now after that's cooked a couple of minutes, you'll notice that the meat here is pretty well seared all over. And then you're ready to add your ramen noodles and your water, and then of course you'll add your flavor packs. And like I said, we really want to watch the sodium intake, but you need sodium for survival, but not too much or it'll lower your potassium level. Alright, now I've got 1 cup of water here I'm going to add to this, and that will start to actually make a nice broth in here already. You stir that around, and the flavor from the meat and the vegetables and the stuff that's braised on the bottom of the pan is going to start to make a nice little broth in itself already. So anyway, the ramen noodle packets call for adding 2 cups of water, but we're not going to drain this. We're just going to cook it and leave the broth in there. We're not going to pour any water off. We're making our broth at the same time. So we used 1 cup. We're going to bring that to a boil. We're going to get that really high, bring that to a boil. I'm making 2 packs, so I'm actually going to put 2 cups of water in there. All right, when the broth here becomes very, very hot and comes to a rolling boil, you want to take your noodles and take the flavor packet out. You want to break these noodles up, and you just want to add them to the broth. Okay, so add that. And like I said, I'm doing 2 of them, so it's a double batch for me. So take the flavor packet out. Crush the noodles up. I guess you really don't have to crush the noodles up unless you want to, but that's the way I prefer it. It fits on the spoon better. Okay. Then I bring that back to a rolling boil on the stove. And I may need to add a little more water. You just kind of eyeball it here and see if it needs more water. And if it does, then you just add more water. Okay, now after that's cooked 2 or 3 minutes, it should be done. Now the last thing you want to do is you want to add your flavor packets. Like I said, once again, this will increase your sodium, but it'll also give it the flavor of that broth. So, you know, take something with potassium. So make sure you don't overdo it with the sodium. Alright, so you just stir that in. Alright. Now to serve that, you just take you a bowl. You can get your noodles out there. Like I said, I'm making 2 servings here, so make sure you got some meat in there, and then pour some broth over it. Now, that ramen has actually turned into a little bit of a more fully balanced meal for you, and put a piece of garlic toast or something, any kind of bread you have there with it. And maybe a little cracked pepper on top. Alright, so there you have it. Now you have ramen, and it's a little bit better than just your vanilla ramen noodle meal, and it's a little bit more of a fully balanced meal. It's still not perfect. You know, you really want to try and eat healthy if you can, but if you absolutely have to eat very cheaply, this is a lot more healthy than just a pack of noodles and water. So there you go, a little bit of dressed up ramen noodle for you.